Okay, now that we have our intro out of the way and we have some resources to further look into things like mindfulness and meditation, and I do encourage that we actually do that because everything that we're going to be talking about in this course will benefit greatly from having a dedicated sitting meditation practice or a walking meditation practice or some sort of mindfulness practice that we are integrating on a semi-regular basis as well. So first of all, I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about what practice actually is in music and why it's important that we cultivate self-awareness and focus in our practice sessions. So practice is something that is talked about almost all the time in music. This is how we know we get better at music is, oh, I have to practice more. People always say that, oh, like it's just a matter of practice. But the problem with those types of statements is that oftentimes practice is not actually defined by teachers and it's not defined by students either. And so we run into this issue where people go home and they spend a little bit of time with whatever they're trying to learn on their instrument and they're not really getting anywhere. And they come back to the teacher and the teacher says, you need to practice more. And they go, yeah, okay, I need to practice more. And they go home and then they do the same things and we get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, but it's not often very satisfactory. And practice can come along with a lot of complex emotions like boredom and frustration and why am I doing this, right? It's really important to know one's motivation when we are learning a new skill. We're going to get to that a little bit later. So practice is not simply playing the song or playing the scale or whatever it is. Because playing to me is when we are actually just going through something we have already learned. And learning, practice, and playing are all different things when we're learning a skill. Learning is when we are learning literally the notes of, say, the scale or the notes of a song. If we're reading the music or the tablature, we have to be able to read through it with some competence, right? The practice part is taking the part that we have learned and we want to repeat that over and over and over in a certain way that it actually improves, right? Practice is the focused repetition of small parts with the aim of getting better. And oftentimes when people go home and they practice, they go home and they play the song slowly or even quickly and sloppily with the hope that the more times that they play through the song very sloppily and what have you, that it's going to improve. And often we don't actually see that happening. We see people learning bad habits, playing incorrect rhythms, incorrect notes, and generally they are able to play the song quicker or what have you, but they're learning incorrect things, right? In the classical world and things, this is not very good, right? But even in not the classical world, if we want to be playing cleanly and with some competence on our instrument, we have to be practicing with a degree of focus and dedication so that we are learning the correct things and not forming bad habits. And so this is where awareness comes in, right? First of all, we have to know what practice is. The focused repetition of certain sections or parts of a skill to improve with the aim at improving. And so oftentimes I talk about soccer practice, right? I'm not a soccer player, but a lot of people, at least in their childhood, probably did play soccer or football or hockey or some sort of sport, baseball. So when you're at a sports practice, do you just play games? Probably not. Usually, you divide the practice into several different chunks. You might be running sprints. You might be doing some exercise, right? You might be kicking balls over and over again in certain ways and seeing at what angle you're going to be kicking that ball to get it to go to the place that you want it to. You might be practicing dribbling the ball with your feet, or if it's basketball, practicing your basketball work, right? Or shooting hoops. And you're not always integrating it all into the game itself. What we usually do is we split things apart like that. And you're learning the skills individually, and then near the end of the practice, they might do a mock game with all the members of the team kind of playing opposite, and you're learning to integrate those skills. So with practice, we want to be isolating things. So we are repeating small sections, and then we are integrating that to the whole. Those are two extremely, very, very important parts to practice. And we are only going to improve upon our practicing when we are cultivating self-awareness. So now that we have defined practice and the difference between play, practice, and learning, right? Play was the aspect of when we're playing the thing that we've already learned and we're doing that for our own enjoyment, or rather to make sure that we still know the piece. And then we can actually highlight elements that we need to practice more if we run into problems. So we have defined those three separate things, and those are going to be the working definitions moving forward in this course. We're going to dig a little bit more into that in a bit, but in the next video, I'm actually going to define mindfulness versus meditation and why they're important to think about them as different things. And we're going to be talking about some of the myths around mindfulness and meditation and what that actually means in context.